was compromised. A lot of things a lot of the evidence was trying to be gotten rid of. There was a lot of cleaning that happened, and she showed that she had blunt force trauma to the head, asphyxiation. So he tried to choke her. He tried to maim her. He tried to, and not tried to. He did. He ended up murdering her. So after reading this disgusting story, I was thinking, what would cause? What are some of the causes of domestic violence? What are some of the underlining things that makes domestic violence happen? What are some of the things that makes domestic violence possible? Why is it that domestic violence happens so common, especially in the United States? I pray that people that I know will never have to experience domestic violence, but it is something that I think needs to have a closer look today. It's something that needs to definitely be looked at. Husband arrested for murder of second grade teacher found dead in her home. Andrew McCormack was arrested Tuesday after the body of his wife, Vanessa McCormack, was discovered at their house in Revere. The evidence suggests that the murder was a crime of domestic violence committed in the very place where she should have been the safest, her own home, the district attorney Daniel Connolly said. So they are going to try to throw this man under the jail, and I hope that they are successful. He should be thrown under the jail. There's no way this man should be a free man ever again, especially after something so heinous. So, this happened in Massachusetts, and the story is gaining national attention. But what causes domestic violence? Domestic violence, also known as domestic abuse, intimate partner violence, or abuse, may start when one partner feels the need to control and dominate the other. We have this misogynistic history in this country of the man being not only the breadwinner, but in charge. The man is the head of the household. The man I'm the king of the castle, as Ralph Cramden used to say. I'm the king and this is my castle. And a lot of people take that stuff to heart. But now in 2017, we have women becoming more and more head of the household, women working, women becoming more independent. And I think the adjustment period might be a little bit too difficult for some men, unfortunately. And it really is a sad situation. Abusers may feel this need to control their partner because of low self-esteem, extreme jealousy, difficulties in regulating anger and other strong emotions, or when they feel inferior to the other partner in education and socioeconomic backgrounds. Some people with very traditional beliefs may think that they have the right to control their partner and that women aren't equal to them. I know a lot of men who are, due to their insecurities, are serial cheaters. I've grown up knowing a serial abuser. I've witnessed domestic violence in front of my face by people when I was younger, and it's very traumatic to witness it. Very. After seeing it, I said I would never put my hands on a female. I would never, I would never become that. I would never become that type of abuser. Some people with very traditional beliefs, the article said by Tony D. Goldsmith, some people with very traditional beliefs may think that they have the right to control their partner and that women aren't equal to them. This is especially in marriages. Others may have an undiagnosed personality disorder or psychological disorder. Still, others may have learned this behavior from growing up in a household where domestic violence was accepted as a normal part of being raised in their family. Thankfully, I've never seen my domestic violence did not happen between my mother and my father. There was a lot of arguing. Don't get me wrong. There was a lot of verbal stuff, but no domestic violence. A partner's domination may take the form of emotional, physical, or sexual abuse. Studies suggest that violent behavior, often caused by an interaction of situational and individual factors. That means that abusers learn violent behavior from their family, people in their community, and other cultural influences as they grow up. They may have seen violence often, or they may have been victims themselves. Some abusers acknowledge growing up having been abused as a child. This is the same thing for sexual assault predators. A lot of people who have been accused and been guilty of sexually assaulting someone was sexually assaulted when they were younger. Still no excuse in my book. They still should be stoned to death. You are a sexual abuser. If you are an abuser of a woman, if you are a physical abuser, you should be stoned to death, because I don't know if there's 100% any cure. And who's to say that you won't do it again? Stone them. Children who witness this are the victims of violence may learn to believe that violence is a reasonable way to resolve conflict between people. Boys who learn that women are not to be valued or respected, and those who see violence directed against women, are more likely to abuse women when they grow up. Girls who witness domestic violence in their families of origin are more likely to be victimized by their own husbands. This is why you see a lot of women, you wonder, like, why are they in this relationship with this man who's abusing her? And then they end up leaving that man finally, and then they get into another relationship, and the same thing. It's like sometimes they find they are magnets to these types of abuses. Although women are most often the victim of domestic violence, their gender roles can be reversed sometimes. Alcohol and drugs may contribute to violent behavior. A drunk or high person will be less likely to control his or her violent impulses towards their partner, so keeping such drinking or drug abuse use episodes to a minimum may be valuable for a person living in a domestic violence situation. No cause of domestic violence, however, justifies the action of the abuser, nor should it be used as a rationale for their behavior. These possible causes are only to better understand why an abuser believes it's acceptable to abuse their partner physically, sexually, psychologically, or emotionally. Ultimately, an abuser needs to get help for their unhealthy and destructive behavior, and find themselves living a solitary and lonely life. Let me say this. If you are a female, if you are a woman, and you have been abused domestically by your male counterpart or even female counterpart, please do the right thing and leave. Yes, I said it. Leave. I don't care if you're married. I don't care if you've been with this person for a long time. Domestic violence should not be tolerated. There should be zero tolerance for domestic violence under any circumstances. This young woman, who was only 30 years old, I believe, murdered by her husband, who was around 30 as well. The 30-year-old wife was unresponsive when authorities arrived and shown signs of trauma to her body. There is no reason, if she was ever abused by this man again before, she should have stayed with him. Her life may have been spared, or she may have still been alive if she did leave. Now, in the other case, where the man is on a stay of execution, the wife did leave the husband, and he followed after her and ended up killing her sister because of it. So domestic violence is something that you have to take seriously, and your life can definitely be taken from it. In some cultures, it festers. I mean, let's look at Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, women were just allowed to drive in the year 2017. Not yet. They voted that they will be able to drive. And a first for conservative religious freedom kingdoms, Saudi Arabia has declared that women will finally be able to drive. the culmination of years of activism and appeals from both within and outside the Gulf nation. The royal decree announced live on state television Tuesday will come in effect in June of next year. A newly formed committee will present its findings 30 days on how the policy should be implemented. So in June of next year, women will be able to drive. They'll be able to apply for their own licenses, and they'll be able to do this without permission of their male guardians. Now, I say permission of their male guardians because in Saudi Arabia, a lot of the culture is that men are the head of household, the dominant one in the house, and what they say goes. Here's what women in Saudi Arabia are not able to do. They are not able to marry, divorce, travel, open a bank account, or get a job, or have elective surgery without the permission of their male guardians. Women are still beholden to a restrictive guardianship laws that govern nearly every aspect of their lives. In cases where a woman's father is deceased or absent, her husband, a male relative, brother, or in some cases even a son, must give his approval before a woman can obtain often basic entitlements. Let me repeat that. In some cases, if the father's dead, they have no husband, they have no brother, and they're widowed, the woman's son makes the decisions in the household. Her own son. They are not allowed to mix freely with members of the opposite sex. Some exceptions include hospitals, banks, and medical colleges. In 2013, authorities ordered shops that employ both men and women to build separation walls to enforce rules of preventing the sexes from mixing together. They're not even allowed to work in most, like retail. They're not allowed to work where men are around. They have to be on the other side of walls. Appear in public with a full black abaya. The all-encompassing loose robe that covers even their head is to protect women's modesty in public. They're not allowed to conduct certain businesses without a male sponsor. Women wanting to open their own businesses have to call on at least 2 men who can testify to her character before she can be granted a loan or a business license. Women also, now I live in Massachusetts where it's favorable to women. Once the man and the woman separates, it's not as more than often custody is granted to the mother, and then the father secondary. That's just how it is in Massachusetts. However, in Saudi Arabia, women do not retain custody of their children in a divorce after they reach the age of 7 for boys and 9 for girls. In a divorce in Saudi Arabia, the children go to the father. Apply for a national identification card or passport without the permission of male guardians. Eat at restaurants that don't have separate designated family sections. Women can't even do that. Get a fair hearing in court. Receive an equal inheritance. Under Sharia inheritance laws, daughters receive half of what it is awarded to their brothers. Critics say this is due to a misinterpretation of Islamic laws, sometimes sending women into poverty because they are left without their father's wills. Now, you can't, and they're left into poverty because they can't work, not without the permission of the male. They can't do anything, so a lot of them depend on their father's inheritances. But they don't get that. They can't get the inheritance because they can't get an equal inheritance because of their sex. When I say we have a long way to go in this world for treating women as equal, it is not me just saying it in passing. There are parts of this world where women are treated like third-class citizens. Saudi Arabia is one of them. And that's not to say that women just have it easy as pie in the United States. There's still a lot of ways that there needs to be gone. There's still a lot of ways to go for equal rights for women, as far as pays, as far as job opportunities, and as far as educations that their male counterparts get. But It could be worse. A feeble, in places like India as well. A feeble no may mean yes. India court overturns a rape conviction. This is what happened in India, where rapes have been rampant. I've seen story after story about rape cases in India. Some have been, dealt with. Justice has been served in a lot of the cases, but in many cases, it seems like justice hasn't been served. But in this case, an acquittal in a high-profile rape case in India has reignited the debate over the meaning of consent after a judge set aside the conviction of a Bollywood filmmaker, saying a feeble no could still signal willingness on the part of an alleged victim. Mahmood Farooqui, the co-director of the hit Bollywood film Peoply Live, I want to see that movie, was sentenced to 7 years in prison in 2006 after he was found guilty of raping a Columbia University graduate at his home. Farooqi's lawyers challenged the 2016 ruling in Delhi's High Court in their appeal. They called the attention to the lack of evidence that Farooqui was alone with the victim in his house on the night of the alleged incident. They also made an alternative argument claiming that if at all such an occurrence had taken place, it was with the alleged victim's consent. In throwing out the conviction on Monday, the High Court judge Ashutosh Kumar said Farooqui deserved the benefit of the doubt on all points. Kumar said it was not clear whether the incident was outlined by the alleged victim took place. Moreover, he added Farooqui had no idea at all that his alleged victim had not given her consent. So they threw the case out. This is the problems with domestic problems and domestic abuse and the treatment of women worldwide. In places like India, rape happens far too often. In places like Saudi Arabia, women are treated like 4th and 5th class citizens. And in America, domestic violence is on the rise. The high-profile story of the husband who murdered his wife, Mr. McCormack. He has been arrested and charged with the murder. Vanessa McCormack, the victim, taught at Connery Elementary School in Lynn, Mass., where she was remembered this week. We have to do better as men. We have to do better with how we treat our women and how we treat women. Period. Not even our women. They're not our possessions. We have to be better with how we treat women and how we respect women, even in this country, and we have to set the example for the world, because worldwide, women are victims of all sorts and kinds of abuse. The husband of a Massachusetts second grade teacher found dead in her home has been arrested for murder. In another case, a man whose stay of execution yesterday was made a stay because after he had pulled his wife's sister out of the car, shot her, threw her in a ditch, and shot her again. He is getting a stay of execution because of a potential juror. And it's just more and more cases like this are being uncovered, and something should be done about it. But we as men, we have to continue to strive to respect our women, strive to fight alongside our women for equal pay, for equal rights, for equal respect. It's not just about a man's world. It's a woman's world as well, and we should be sharing in all things together. This has been your boy Truth It. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. I will see you guys tomorrow. Be sure to tune in today at 3 o'clock because Trooper Joe will be here on Archangel: A Return to Chivalry. And you can also listen live at blogtalkradio.com/Archangel: A Return to Chivalry. This has been your boy Truth It. I'll holla.